Hey friends, if there's one thing I've learned about chickens, it's that they are creatures of habit. They like to eat at a particular time and a particular place. And it's got me thinking a lot about the scripture for this coming Sunday, which comes from Mark chapter 14. We're going to be looking at the story of the Last Supper. Now, here's what I'm thinking. Because last week we celebrated baptisms, and we took some time to talk about what baptism is, and this week is our regularly scheduled communion service, where at the end of the service, like we do at the end of every month, we celebrate the Lord's Supper together. This seems like a good opportunity to take a little bit of a closer look at the Lord's Supper, because the Lord's Supper and baptism are the sacraments of the church. And so consider this our sort of deep dive into the sacraments of the church, or at least a little bit more of a deep dive than we typically do. And so I look forward to that. And so the lens through which we're going to look at the Lord's Supper is Mark chapter 14. And one of the things that we'll find in Mark chapter 14 is that there is what sets the stage for the Last Supper is this emphasis on preparation. And so Jesus sends out two of his disciples to find a place and to prepare the Passover meal that they would share together. And one of the things that we learned through taking a look at the Passover meal is that the ancient Israelites, too, were creatures of habit. They celebrated the Passover at a particular time and at a particular place. And it's within that framework that we meet Jesus and his disciples here in Jerusalem, preparing to participate in that ritual, in that habit of the Passover. And it's within that framework of the Passover meal that we see that scene that Christians are so familiar with now of Jesus breaking the Passover bread and saying, "This is my body," and holding one of the Passover cups and saying, "This is my blood." So we're going to just take a little bit of a closer look at that. What does the preparation of the Passover mean for us, that like when we celebrate communion? How does that inform what communion actually is? And so we're going to just take a little bit of a closer look at that this Sunday, and I look forward to doing that. We also, in that same spirit of preparation, I think there's two things, okay? First, I think that we also have some preparation to do. And so here's what I mean. I think it's good for us to prepare our own hearts and our own minds to come to the Lord's table on Sunday, to come to receive the Lord's Supper, having examined our own hearts and our own minds, to search for those places and to ask for the Lord's help with this, and searching for those things in which we maybe still bear resentment towards a fellow brother or sister, or we're withholding forgiveness from somebody, or we are too afraid to ask for forgiveness for somebody. It's good for us to seek forgiveness ahead of receiving the Lord's Supper, which is this meal that bears the forgiveness of Christ, which is forgiveness that none of us deserves. We should be very careful about coming to receive that meal with our own bitterness, with our own resentments towards others. And the second part of that is that thinking about how do we make it, thinking again to these chickens behind me being creatures of habit, how do we make it a habit to be reminded again and again of the forgiveness that Christ has offered us, and to live out of that, to be creatures of that habit. So those are all things we're going to talk about this Sunday, and I look forward to doing that with each of you. Know that I love you, I'm praying for you, and I look forward to seeing many of your faces this Sunday. All right, take care, friends.